Physical and chemical changes. Let's start with the physical change. In a physical change, properties remain the same. The matter overall looks different, but it's still the same type of matter. The substance just changes appearance. Take this delicious cupcake. If I rip the cupcake in half and put the bottom on the top, it's still the same type of cupcake. Just now I have cupcake on both sides and icing in the middle, which is apparently the proper way to eat a cupcake, because if you don't, you could end up like this guy. Specifically, a physical change is a change that affects the size, shape, or color of a substance, but does not affect its overall composition. So once again, whatever the object is before a physical change, it's going to still be the same thing after a physical change. For example, a phase change. If I'm going from a solid to a liquid or a liquid to a gas. Look at this candy bar. Candy bar is chocolate. If I add heat, it melts from a solid, turns into a liquid. Is it still chocolate? Yes. Once it cools back into a solid again, it'll be edible, but it will not be the same shape. Now look at this pot of boiling water. I'm going from a liquid to a gas. I'm going from water to water vapor. Well, that water vapor eventually goes up into the clouds and comes back down as rain. So I have changed from a liquid to a gas and back to liquid again. It's still the same substance. It's still H2O. It's still water. Ripping, tearing, breaking, shredding, these are all another examples of physical changes. Here I have some aluminum. If you look and I tear the aluminum, it's still little pieces of aluminum. If I break this glass, the pieces that are broken are still pieces of glass. They did not automatically change into something new. So a physical change, it's the same thing before and after it has changed. Here's some other examples of physical changes in matter. Cut, tear, folded, written on, painted, liquid, solid, gas, mixture, solution. Now let's talk about a chemical change. Chemical change happens when a chemical reaction happens between matter. A change in materials that produces a brand new substance. The change is permanent. For example, let's take this cake. If I look at this cake, before I have eggs, flour, oil, vanilla, I mix it up, I put it in the oven, and I wound up with the cake that I can now eat. If I take that cake and then I put it into the refrigerator, after a while I go in the refrigerator, take it out. It didn't turn back into eggs, flour, oil, and vanilla. It's still the same cake. In this case, it was a permanent change by a chemical reaction, which was different than the chocolate in the previous example. If I took the chocolate and I melted it, it was still chocolate after it melted. But then when it cooled, it went back to that hard, solid form of chocolate again. It's not the case with this cake. Once a chemical reaction has occurred, the cake has been cooked, little bubbles have formed inside, and now the cake is able to be eaten. Some telltale signs that a chemical change has taken place is a change in color, seeing bubbles, or a change in temperature. Two examples of a chemical change. First one is rust on a nail. Oxygen is one of the most reactive elements. Here, oxygen combines with iron, and they form iron oxide. That's what you can find on the outside of the nail. That's that rust that you see. Another example is an apple rotting. You most likely have taken a bite into an apple, and then after a while the apple's gotten brown. Once again, that is reaction that has happened with oxygen. Here's some other examples of chemical changes in matter. Basically, a new substance is going to be formed. So here, new matter is formed when we have something burning, rusting, cooking. We have film processing, reacting with an acid, and electrolysis. We're going to do electrolysis in class. I'm going to take some water and run electricity through it and separate it into a hydrogen and oxygen. That'll be a fun little experiment in class. Now, the rest of your notes, you have some pictures. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to identify if a physical change or a chemical change is happening based on the picture and the diagram. Once we get into class, we're going to go over the answers and see how you did.